found it. Still learning, Anna. Thank you. All right. So yeah, we'll be recording. If you're not comfortable with that, you know what you can and cannot do. Raise your hands if you have questions, and please try to limit your speaking time on your questions. All right. Next, our agenda. So welcome. We have community updates coming up in a couple of seconds. We do have a special presentation later on. We will have a conversation about the ordinance committee that Speak for the Trees is considering starting. And we'd love to know if people will be interested in being a part of that, but David will be on in a little while and he will definitely share more about that. Then at the end, we have our buff survey and our next meeting date. So let's roll right into community updates. And who would like to go first? Oh. Erica.
Hey, yeah, I might as well jump right in. Some folks here may be aware, some folks may not be as aware of this exciting opportunity that's open right now through the city of Boston. They've released a request for proposals for tree planting and maintenance on private properties in the city of Boston. We've been looking at this RFP a little bit, kind of trying to figure out what's contained in there, what's not contained in there. Essentially, the city is looking for formation of an alliance of urban forestry organizations. This would be an alliance that would represent the diverse neighborhoods in Boston. It would need to include community organizations, and it's essentially $1 million of the ARPA allocation, which was $2.5 million across the whole city of Boston for urban forestry. And $1 million of that funding would be going towards formation of this alliance and implementation of planting and maintenance projects and data management of those projects on private properties. So I'm going to put kind of my info and then a link to the bid listing in the chat. They make it a little difficult to get to the actual PDF of the RFP. So if anyone needs that PDF, please feel free to reach out. I think a bunch of us on here could provide that. And I just wanted to let folks know that we're really excited to be considering a proposal and happy to answer any questions. It is separate from the ordinance. Tree preservation laws on private lands are not part of this scope of work, but we recognize their importance as well for preserving the trees that are already on private properties. So that's my community update, and it's great to see everybody. Happy 2023. Thanks, Darrell.
Thank you so much, Erica. Happy to see you too. Melissa, you're up next. Good morning.
Good morning. I am, as people probably know by now, from across the river in Cambridge. And I have two things I just want to kind of draw attention to. One just I heard about this morning. So I'll start with that. Again, I don't have any particular information, but I'm very excited as one of the leaders of the movement here in Cambridge to mandate the installation of vegetative or biosolar roofs on all new construction in the city of Cambridge, which was really putting some teeth into an ordinance that had done absolutely nothing because it just basically defined what a green roof was. So we now have in Cambridge where any new construction of 25,000 square feet or more must have a green roof. And by that, we mean either vegetative or a combination of solar and vegetation, which we call biosolar. I was thrilled to get an email from a person in Boston who is an architect and informing me that they are planning to have a meeting, a conference this spring in collaboration with what's called Green Roofs for Healthy Cities, the Boston Society for Architecture, and the Boston Society for Landscape Architecture. They're aiming for about 400 people, and it's going to be a focus on pushing for policy changes that either mandate or incentivize green roofs in urban areas, with Boston being the main target. So again, I know we spend most of our time, but there are these spaces that are above us that can also serve a lot of purposes with the use of nature up there. The only other thing, and I'm going to be a bit of a broken record here, is the Miyawaki Forest, which, as we know, we have 2 of them now in Cambridge. And I just heard at a tree meeting the other day that the main person in charge of our urban forest here in Cambridge is talking about the potential for looking for spaces to do 1 each year here in Cambridge. That's certainly not a promise or a plan. But I did want to point out that the Globe several weeks ago had in its ideas section a personal reflection from a person who participated in the planting of the Miyawaki Forest. And that also elicited a letter to the editor, et cetera. So if anyone would like that ideas story, you can just put your email in the chat and I'm happy to send you a PDF of that story. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you as always, Melissa, for your update. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sarah Freeman, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah from JP, and I'll give a mini update on the Shattuck Hospital Franklin Park restoration possibility. I and probably some others were a little holding our breath at the transition of the governors because the outgoing Secretary of Health and Human Services had made a big announcement when the mayors changed, announcing the temporary cottages on the last day Kim Janey was in her role. And so it just seemed like they have one proposal they've been reviewing since August, and nothing happened. So we live to fight another day, and hope the new team will be more open to some of the issues and opportunities that ranging from environmental justice, community engagement, finding a better balance, decentralizing, like they keep talking about. The one proposal they got was for 4 times the magnitude of anything that had been discussed during the planning. So I'll leave it at that, but I'll put my name in the chat if anyone's interested in getting updates or being invited to meetings, etc. I'd love to know. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. As always, much appreciated. Ann McHugh, you're up next.
Hi, all. I'm Annie McHugh. I live in Jamaica Plain. I'm a member of the Trees as a Public Good Network, which is a statewide network under the umbrella of Revolution Mass that's looking at tree preservation issues in multiple communities and urban forests. And there's a few other people on this meeting who also are active members. And one thing that came up in the group was the issue of artificial turf, because it is in both at least one case in Boston and cases in multiple other communities that linked to trees being proposed or having been taken down in order to create playing fields that are then being surfaced with artificial turf, which has multiple bad things about it. And so we had discussed in the Trees as a Public Good group whether to take on basically a process through the Healy administration, through DEP, to ask that they begin to regulate artificial turf. And it was decided that that was kind of too far out of it was a little mission creep for Trees as a Public Good. And but the Climate Working Group of Revolution Mass is considering going ahead and filing this petition and working on this. And so I'll put my email in the chat, and if anyone is interested in getting involved in the effort to do this petition about artificial turf, I can get you on that list, Serve. Thank you, Jarrell.
Thank you, Ann. Much appreciated. Bill, you're up next.
Thanks, Jarrell.
Morning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Masterson with Tree Eastie. We're an organization that's aiming to plant, maintain trees in East Boston, as well as educate residents on the benefits of trees. So while we've put our shovels away for the winter, we've got a lot of off-season activities that are taking place, some of which I could use your help on. We've got a great group of volunteers. We've got several activities that are taking place. We're writing grants. So if anybody knows of any grants that for tree planting or maintenance that are available, if you could put it in the chat. We've identified a bunch of them, but we're always looking for more. We also are developing a bilingual tree benefit brochure or literature, I guess, for the community that we're going to develop and distribute throughout the community to talk to our residents about the benefits of trees. Also include in that the 311 number if they want to have a tree planted in front of their home. That's something that we're going to encourage people to do. Another group is working on an outreach program to developers. So East Boston's undergoing a very large development across the entire community, with buildings being raised and people being displaced. So we have a group of people that are working with developers on an outreach program to encourage them to either maintain the trees that are on the property or to hopefully plant street trees. Generally, they're tearing up the sidewalks to put utilities into these buildings. We're asking them when they pour the new sidewalks to leave tree pits. And the reception so far has been very good. So we have a document that we've been using with the developers to sit down with them and talk to them about how the trees improve property values and health. And so it's I think an easy ask, particularly since an average tree will cost them about $1,000, and that's a rounding error in consideration for the total amount of some of these development projects. So I'm happy to share that with anybody that's on this call. Two other things I wanted to talk about. One is that we are working, this a consortium of organizations, environmental organizations in East Boston that are looking to take a city-owned parcel adjacent to the airport and to convert it to a greenhouse. I'll call it green space. So it's about 1.5 acres. It's totally derelict property right now. It actually was the entrance to a Frederick Law Olmsted Park called Wood Island in East Boston that was taken away from the community back in the 50s and 60s for airport expansion. So we've got some good momentum behind that. It's Air Inc., Friends of Belle Isle Marsh, Eastie Farm, groups that have similar interests. And we met this past week with our city councilor, Gigi Coletta, and state representative, Adrian Matero, brought them up to speed, got them on board. We've got a lot of local support. I've had personal conversations with Joey Pellegrino of PowerCore, because we see this as being a potential training facility, and he would love to be able to have a place for the PowerCore folks to be able to do some training in a greenhouse, be able to learn ins and outs of green aspects in leading to green jobs. So Ryan Woods is on board. The commissioner, would love to be able to see a facility there as well. So I just share that with you because it's something to be on the lookout for. We are now just starting to lay the groundwork for it, and be working in the community to be able to share with the citizens of East Boston what this is going to look like. But we're really excited about it, and momentum seems to be there. It's city-owned property, so that's where Councilor Coletta is going to help to be able to figure a way to be able to get this. We already know who owns it. It's DPW, but we want to be able to start this summer by actually converting it into some green space. The last thing I wanted to mention was Councilor Coletta, big supporter of trees. She's newly elected just this past year. She made a proposal on the floor of the city council in December for a new type of ordinance that would be in place. She introduced the discussion bill, and it was seconded by the rest of the councilors to set up a mitigation fund. that would be paid into by developers who remove trees from any parcel in the city as they develop. It's modeled after a program that was started in West Palm Beach. They have already raised $600,000. And if trees are removed, developers will be forced to put money into this mitigation fund, which would be used to plant additional trees. So I'm very excited about that. I spoke with her this past week. It looks like in the end of February, beginning of March, it'll go in front of the council for discussion and for a vote. They'll obviously be looking for some support across the communities. And so I'll share more information as that comes closer, but it's a great opportunity for us to be able to create a fund for future tree planting across the city. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Great updates, Bill. Thank you very, very much. Alana, you're up next.
Thank you, Jarrell. I just wanted to first thank everyone who attended our Environmental Action Summit last month. From that, we formed a working group that's now going to be meeting bi-weekly on Tuesdays to talk about some different goals that we want to do on the environmental front. So one of the first goals that we're talking about reviewing is the tree ordinance that was introduced by Councilor Arroyo. We obviously don't think that it's a strong enough tree ordinance. We want to work within ourselves as a working group to put forth and draft a stronger tree ordinance that includes community input. So we are reaching out to the group here to see if anybody would like to be involved in that effort. Again, we'll be meeting bi-weekly. You can email me at savemoreandstreettrees@gmail.com, and I'll put the information in the chat if you'd like to be involved. We've been working very closely with David, who's given us a lot of great ideas, and we just hope to be able to introduce something that will help us save the trees within our community. So if anyone's interested, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana.
You're welcome.
Lisa, you're up next. Uh-oh, did we lose Lisa? Lisa Beatman?
Hi, everyone. Happy New
there you
Year.
Happy New Year.
Pat Alvarez, would you like to give the Save Crane Ledge Woods update?
You would probably do a better job, more comprehensive job than I, but I can jump in after if you go for it.
Well, I'll make it short and sweet, and I'll put some links in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, so after a period of waiting, in mid-December, the Lincoln Properties, the developer proposing to clear cut the 14 acres of the 24-acre Crane Ledge Woods, and the border of Hyde Park, Rosendale, and Mattapan, they resubmitted their draft final impact report plan without making any changes, without responding at all to the hundreds and hundreds of public comments and city department comments that were made last summer. And they're resubmitting it as a final plan. And they can do that because the BPDA did not issue a formal determination of adequacy report. So we're trying to rally the troops. There was a BPDA sponsored community meeting Wednesday night. It was very, very well attended. There were over 130 residents and stakeholders who were, all but one were in full support of full conservation there. And so the next step, and so we're asking everybody if there's a public comment period that is open through January 27th. And so I'm going to put in the chat details on that, how to submit comments, suggested Crane Ledge Woods Coalition talking points, the letters that we wrote to Mayor Wu and Arthur Jemison. And also I'll put a link to the public comments that were only published last week due to our active and assertive advocacy. So go, Pat.
Add to that or talk about Dale Street?
Oh, okay.
You summed it up really well. I mean, I think it was a great meeting. Everyone spoke against the project eloquently. Some people brought us to tears. It was amazing.
Hmm.
But this one person at the end spoke sort of wobbly in favor, against. It seemed clear to me that since he was called on last, that he was probably a plant. But yeah, we really need people to write letters. Go on the links that Lisa is putting in the chat, and please make comments. This has been a hard fought project, and we need to win this. This is the largest remaining woodland that's unprotected in the city. It's 24 acres. It's in an environmental justice neighborhood. If it was destroyed, flooding, rock slides, it's up way up high, it would destabilize the homes below. It would be a nightmare for the community. Take away the only tree canopy that's within close to a mile of the neighborhood. So yeah, it's top priority for the city, really. And I'll just mention that there's a 1 acre parcel, 0 Dale Street. The reason that's also up for development, but the reason it's so critically important is that there's the largest urban wilds in the city, Sharon Woods. It's part of Sharon Woods. It just happens to be privately owned. The rest of Sharon Woods is owned by the Conservation Commission. It's conservation land. The city's put close to $1 million into restoring Sharon Woods over the last 20 years. And this parcel, to get in there, would the urban wild trees, which are, again, this is illegal because it's on conservation land, would be cut. They would be damaged. There would be massive flooding. So we're also in a fight to save that acre of land. It's funny, I saw somebody sent me an article about Arthur Jemison talking about changes in the BPDA. And there was like the word climate mitigation was said once. And they were talking about development and what kinds of development. But no one talked about these issues related to tree canopy. And it didn't surprise me, but it was infuriating. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Lisa. Anita?
Hi.
Good morning.
Thanks for letting me speak. I want to speak on behalf of the trees in Wakefield Forest. My son, Eddie, did a video. I'm going to put the video link into the chat. I don't know why it's not letting me do it. Let me try it again. Wakefield is north of Boston, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on the time of traffic. This forest that is in Wakefield is one of the more pristine areas. Anyway, if you watch the video, my son and I went for a walk. He took his camera for the walk. What resulted was basically a poem or an art film, a small thing, hoping to help people fall in love with the forest, people who are ready to destroy it, who haven't ever been up there. And there's also a petition to sign. If you watch this video or know about the Nempt Forest and haven't signed the petition, please consider signing it. It could be that starting in March, they'll put fences up around the forest and start blasting it. It's a hilltop forest. It has lots of groundwater immediately under the surface. It's going to create flooding in the area, and it's going to, it's a unique piece of forest, and it's going to be gone soon if we aren't successful. So I just wanted to speak up for it. I don't have much more to say, except please. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you very, very much. Thank you all for these wonderful, great, and important updates. Thank you very much. If you're interested in supporting any of the work that you heard here today, please follow up with each person in the chat. You can message them directly or put your email in the chat. So thank you very much. All right, so moving on to our next item in our agenda. We will be, all right, that went by a little slow. Alexis Gomez from American Forest and our very own Josh Reed here at Speak for the Trees are going to have a special presentation on TESSA, which is a Tree Equity Score Analyzer. They will tell you a little bit about the tool and how it can help us advocate for trees. And today we're going to use the tree planting that Speak for the Trees organized at Harambe Park in Dorchester. So on November 9th, 2022, Speak for the Trees teamed up with American Forest and Power Corps Boston to replace 44 trees at Harambe Park in Dorchester. This amazing undertaking brought together a diverse group of people that was determined to bring life back to the park. Part of the goal of this planting was to help reduce the heat index and raise the tree equity score for the neighborhood and surrounding areas. So now I will pass this off to Alexis and Josh. Do you guys have screen sharing abilities? I'll just move on to the next slide.
Thanks, Drew. I do see screen sharing, but yeah, I'll let you handle the slides.
Okay.
Thanks, Drew. I'll hop in here and for teeing that up. But yep, again, I'm Alexis Gomez. I serve as the Senior Manager of Community Engagement at American Forests, and I've had the pleasure of working with a few folks from Speak for the Trees and have been in a few of these meetings, so you might have seen me before. But to jump into Tree Equity Score Analyzer, I'm just hoping to give a kind of high-level view of it here, and then we'll dive into it more of how Speak for the Trees used it for their own planting. But to begin, you can see the link there for the Tree Equity Score. I'll include it later as well, but you can go on to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the analyzer tool itself, just what is Tree Equity Score? It's an easy way to see the inequitable distribution of tree canopy in our communities and that associated impact. We know that throughout the U.S., tree canopy is often sparse in communities of color, higher and wealthier, predominantly white neighborhoods. And I probably don't have to tell this group about all the good things that trees give us, from regulating temperature, improving air quality, supporting mental health, and the host of other climate and health benefits. And so Tree Equity Score incorporates these factors into a number for every block group or neighborhood level that can be used to compare across a city. So these scores are available for any neighborhood in any urbanized area in the US. And you can go to treeequityscore.org to explore that in more detail. But you can see that these scores range from a 0 to 100. And the lower the score is, that means that it's a greater priority for tree planting. And so some of those kind of the equity indicators that I'll go into a little bit more would mean that they're higher. They're higher level. And so that's Tree Equity Score. The next slide, please.
Okay, Josh, Alexis, I'm going to give you control. You can share your screen now.
Okay.
Because I actually have to take off in a few minutes. So
that works.
You try to share, see if it works. Josh, you should be able to as well.
Yeah, I have the function too. I'll share in a minute.
Okay. You got it, Alexis?
I think so. Sure. Just 1 second here. And sorry, 1 second.
Okay. Everybody looks great. Welcome to the new year. I think I should just say that. Everybody looks energized and ready to do the work. There we go.
Here, I don't know if it's clear. It's capturing a whole, but can people see that okay? Is it clear enough? Okay.
Looks great.
Perfect. And so, as I was mentioning, I just went into Tree Equity Score a little bit. I want to give a little bit of information about how it's built, but not go too much into the data and technical aspects. But if you look at the key factors in the calculation in green, those green boxes, we start with a number for the tree canopy goal. That's based on whether the area is in a forest, grassland, or desert biome. and that number is then adjusted for the population size for that area, for that neighborhood. So it'll, it could increase or decrease depending on that population density. And that tree canopy goal number, so in the green box, is then subtracted by the existing tree canopy for that area. The existing tree canopy is derived from high resolution land cover data. We have a GIS data team who does a lot of the work behind pulling together those numbers. But then after subtracting that existing canopy from the tree canopy goal, we get a number for that gap in tree canopy. So what we need to plant in order to reach our goal. That number is finally multiplied by what we call a priority index on the right. What's a priority index? You might wonder if you're not really familiar. It's just it's how we factor in those equity considerations, like income, health, and race. Each of those 6 characteristics listed in the white box on the right has a percentage that impacts the overall score. And so these 3 things and everything embedded within those are what get us that final score for each neighborhood. If you go to treeequityscore.org, there's a page for going into the methodology, or if you really want to dive deeper into how these are built and the information that is involved in each. But just wanted to give you a high level view again. And so that's really about tree equity score and how those scores are built. And I want to go a little bit more into the actual analyzer tool. So the tree equity score analyzer, we often call it TESA for short. It lets you take that score a little bit further. And so I mentioned that tree equity score is available for any urbanized neighborhood in the US. And you can access that on treeequityscore.org. But the TESA tool lets you take a deeper dive. It's built on the foundation of tree equity score, but it's not currently available for every city. It has a city or regional level coverage, but offers the ability to go all the way down to a parcel or property level, which is not something you can see in the tree equity score version. And it lets you do scenario building and create projects that you might be interested in carrying out. Those added features, as well as that TESA is developed through a collaborative process with stakeholders, means that it's only available for a few cities so far, but there are more on the way. And luckily, one of those cities is Boston, and that's what was used for the Harambe bark planting, which we'll go into more in a minute. The last background that I just wanted to offer here before handing it off to Josh is how you might actually use TESA for your own needs. I've talked a lot about the data and the visualization it can offer, but that's information that can be tailored in a lot of different ways. I'll highlight a few here. For example, if you just want to understand more about your community, you can use it to answer those questions about the tree canopy or some of the social factors that are at play in your community. If you work on projects or grants, you might use it to compile data to build an argument for why you need funding or why that project should go forward. And one more that I'll highlight is that you could use it to build awareness about tree inequity in your community. When you build a scenario in the tool, you are also able to pull an impact report summarizing all the indicators for that site. And so you could use that to share out to neighbors. You could use it in an education workshop, for example, with community members. Or there's lots of other ways that you could use that same information for your own needs. I hope that gives a better sense of TESA at a high level. Again, this will become clear after Josh demos it a little bit, and you can actually see how it was used in their case. But I'll hand it off to you, Josh, there. Should I stop sharing to make this easiest?
Yeah, I'll just share my screen.
Okay.
But yeah, so yes, I'm Joshua Reed. I am the education coordinator to Speak for the Trees. And first, thank you, Joelle, for having me to speak about TESA, and also thanks to Alexis and American Forest for teeing that up and just for the tool. So give me a second as I try to share my screen. Okay, everyone can see that good. So yeah, so I am hoping to just give you a quick demonstration first. I'm hoping to quick click through some of the features, and there's a lot here. So hopefully I'm able to cover everything. And I also would like to, as Jarrell introduced, create a scenario with using the recent Harambe Park planting that we did. And then at the end of that, there'll be a impact report that we can run that Alexis will talk us through and sort of show us the benefits of that planting. So first, this is what you see when you open the TESA Boston app. You get the whole map of Boston, and it is divided into each of these blocks here that you see are census block groups. So using recent census data, that's how they come up with the these little groups that the city is divided into. And the color of the map that you see, these different colors, reflects the various tree equity scores across the city in the different communities. So, you know, the darker the orange, as Lex touched on a little bit, reflects the lower tree equity score. So you could look up here, say at the airport, it's a bit, you know, it's more orange, less trees there. You get a tree equity score if you look on the left of 75. If you move down towards Jamaica Plain, you go in that area where Franklin Park is, it's a far darker green. You get a tree equity score of 100. So I'm gonna go up here to the left and look at this area in Alston, just because it's one of the lower areas, and then just bring our attention to this left tab here. You see, this is where you find a lot of that data. So at the top, you're seeing the tree equity score, which you see is a score of 66. And then below that, you see the indicators, those different data points that Alexis sort of talked about. And you can see all those various ones there and how that totals into the score. If you scroll just below that, you can also see the canopy cover goal. Oh, well, sorry. The current canopy cover down below is 10%. So that's a pretty low canopy coverage. And what you see just above that is the canopy cover goal, that 48%. So that is where we want to get if, you know, to get us to that tree equity score of 100, that is the canopy cover percentage that we want. You know, here's another community just to look to see the difference in the tree equity score and those indicators, you know, what is reflected by a score of 100. So those indicators there. And then also, you know, down here at the bottom, you can see that that canopy goal was achieved. That 38% was the goal for that community, and that was achieved. And that is why they have 100. So yeah, one other thing I want to show quickly too. So one great thing that you can do with this map as well is not only do you get to look at the city of Boston reflecting the tree equity score of the different neighborhoods, but you can also look at it through different indicators. And this is interesting. This is helpful when just prioritizing and selecting where you might do a planting, but it also is good in, you know, sending out reports and sharing data. Just as an example, so again, as we're now looking at it with the tree equity score, you can also go into, say, surface temperature. And you can look at this map and just see how those communities with, you know, depending on whether they have a high or low tree equity score, you know, how that relates to the average temperature in those areas. And again, you can do, you know, you can do that with, say, people in poverty or people in color and see how those factors, you know, relate to areas that have less tree coverage and ultimately lower scores. But I'm going to flip back to the tree equity score layer now. And again, sorry, I'm flying through all of this. I now am going to start to show you the scenario building tool of Tessa. So to do that, we're going to, as I said, we're going to use the Harambe Park site. So another thing, and I
apply today to Purdue University.
Alexis already touched on this. Not only can you look at it through the block group level, but you can also look at the map at the parcel level, is what it's called. So this allows you to zoom in very close. You know, you can zoom directly into rights of ways for street tree plantings. You can do specific addresses, or in our case, Harambe Park. So to do that, you have the scenarios and reports up here. You create a scenario. We will name this Harambe Park. Spelling's bad. So now that we're in the scenario building part of Tessa, you click on whatever location it is you want to add. And you can do this also with the block groups, but for this purpose, we're just going to do it at the parcel level. And so from there, on this right side, you see the scenario building tool. So you can add the tree types. So at Harambe Park, we planted 44 trees. And, you know, Tessa allows us to choose the type of tree by the size, large, medium, and small. So at Harambe, we planted 8 what would be considered small trees and 36 shade trees. So those would be the large. So then you add those trees, the 8 small, and just for a second, what you see here also on the right, you see at the bottom, the canopy available to plant. So you see the amount of square foot there. And then beside that, you see what we are proposing, and then the canopy remaining, which will change as you add those trees. So then we also have we have those large shade trees. Oh. Okay, and then you can see how that changes with the proposal. And so, yeah, and so now we can add that to the scenario. And then what is reflected over here now is that we added this parcel and it is within this block group. And then you're able to, you can go back and change this as you'd like. You can remove and add, you can add multiple parcels or multiple block groups in one. And so on this left tab, it's a bit different than the one we seen earlier as well. It's really just it focuses mostly on the potential tree canopy by square foot, and has these other few factors as well. So yeah, that mostly covers how you add a scenario, and I hope that gave a good, brief, obviously, introduction into some of the tools that Tessa adds. If Alexis, maybe you think there's anything else to add, feel free to share, but before getting to the impact report.
No, I think that's great. I think it'd be also great to leave a few minutes for questions, and so maybe I'll go through the impact report, and then we'll leave at least 5 minutes for that.
Yeah, so I'm going to hand that off to you now. So this impact report that you view after you've proposed your planting will now give you a chance to look at the benefits, the environmental benefits of your proposed planting. So we're doing parcels and right of way because that is the type of planting that we did. And Alexis, I'm going to hand that off to you.
Yep. If you don't mind just scrolling, I'll ask you in a minute, but that's great. If you just go to the top real quick. So at the top of the report is just a summary of this scenario that was built. And so in this case, we see that 44 total trees were planted. Again, 8 small trees, 36 large sized trees. All all these trees were planted inside of one parcel. So on the left, you see that it says one parcel within one block group. And then on the right, the box on the right just summarizes the directly impacted populations. And so, for example, 970 people, 39% of the population are children, etc. These are the same block group information that you will find in the tool, but summarized here. If you scroll down a little bit, just to look at the ecosystem service values, yep, perfect. Again, the planting happened in a parcel, and so that's the tab that you would have to look at. To pull out a few of the benefits of this planting, the community will see 998 tons of carbon sequestered, 2.2 pounds of PM2.5 pollution removed from the air, and almost 25,000 gallons of stormwater runoff absorbed or intercepted. Underneath each of those values, so the same table, you can see some more tangible ways maybe to understand those impacts. So, for example, those 998 tons of carbon sequestered is equal to almost 200 cars off the road. Similarly, those almost 25,000 gallons of stormwater runoff are equal to 1.2 swimming pools, etc. Those are just some maybe more tangible ways to understand the impacts of the tree planting. And then at the top, again, you see the actual dollar valuation of those benefits. And so the ecosystem service value offered by the trees planted for this equal a $1,398 value. That's the estimate based off of, again, the methodology built in here. And one thing while we're on this table, I just wanted to highlight is if Josh, you can go to the existing canopy type, existing site canopy tab, is just that all of these same benefits are calculated for what currently exists there for the existing tree canopy. So before you've even done any planting. I want to highlight it just because this tool can be used not just for planting new trees, but understanding what it currently exists and how what you might want to protect. And so, as maybe you're building an argument or a narrative around what currently exists, these could help you advocate for the potential impact of a planned project, or for advocating for the value of an existing site. And so, just want to highlight that that's there. It's a helpful way to understand kind of what currently exists, and then also compare it along with what new planting might offer. Final, I'll quickly just go down. If you go a little bit further into just the scenario details, here you can just pull out some more, some other additional helpful details about what the impact of the planting. And so here we see that there was an initial tree equity score of 91, and then the new tree equity score as a result of the planting is 93. It's again summarizing the block root demographics, and this is just a helpful tool to understand some more of the impacts. I think those are some of the main characteristics I wanted to highlight about this impact report. This is something that you can export as a PDF. It'll be easily shareable, printed out, etc., and use that information in a way that is useful for your own purposes. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, Josh, on this. Otherwise, maybe taking some questions in the last bit of time we have would be good.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. But yeah, if we want to start taking questions.
Yeah, before questions come up, because people might start dropping off, and I'm happy to have questions. I just wanted to, and I don't know if this was mentioned, I'm sorry I was late, but we do have a grant to support community work to, I know we threw a lot at you, to work with 2 different community-based organizations to create planting projects using this tool. in the coming month or two. So if you are interested, there are stipends available for people to do this. You will learn both how to use Tessa through I think it's about a 2-hour training session. Is that right, Josh?
Yes, it's 2 hours.
And then there will be a follow-up session where we actually do the work to get a scenario planned. So you can reach out to Jarrell. I'll drop his email. He had to leave early, but you can reach out to Jarrell for more information. We can share with you the letter. Again, this would be for a small community-based organization. We're looking at anywhere from 2 to 7 or 8 people per session. And, you know, we want to really focus, of course, on equity in this work. So I just want to leave it at that before people have to leave.
Thank you for that, David. Yeah, so we can start taking questions. Anita?
Thank you. I was very confused about the tree equity score because as you hovered over that area, it looked very orange. And I thought the score was much, much lower. But then after you planted just a few more trees there, the equity score was 93. The equity score had been 91 before. I don't understand. I thought that this was an area that was very orange. So maybe I was colorblind or something.
I noted that as well as I was looking. When you look at the map, it shows a tree equity score of 80 and yes, more orange. This may be just a detail, I'll say a data side of the tool that needs to be corrected. I noted it for myself, so I'm going to double check why for that discrepancy. But thanks for noting that. I did also see how it didn't quite match up with what was in the report.
Thanks.
Yeah, Joanna, do you want to go ahead?
Did you say Joanna? I didn't hear that. Sorry. Did you call on me? I couldn't hear that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, hi. Thanks. Would you be able to scroll over Charlestown just while we're on the phone or on the call, or is that just so I can see it?
Let me close that.
Well, and while you're doing that, I wrote in the chat, well, this tool is so cool. So thanks for making it. When you're looking at the equity score, though, one of the issues that I'm concerned about is that the area, as you can see, there's like a really green pocket on this picture here that represents one of the densest tree canopy parcels in the whole neighborhood. It's a 1 square mile neighborhood, and this area, like right where you are right now, stop there. Like from right where you are now, all the way to the right of that green patch, there are about nearly 400 mature trees in there, and encompassing 27 different species, a ton of habitats. And all of those trees have been slated for removal because of a BHA project. And so it looks like Charlestown has all of these trees, and yet we don't, because they've been approved for removal. So when the equity score was determined, this information is public information. The BPDA approved it, the board approved it. It's supposedly happening, but it's hurting us because it seems like we have trees that we don't, and therefore we're not considered a priority neighborhood, and we should be, because we have one of the lowest tree canopies in the whole city. And if we lose these trees, it will account for 10% of our total canopy. And we're already a heat island, as you can see, all that I don't know. And also all that brown around it, like what is that? Because so the brown would say that we do have trees in that area, or this area?
I can address the first part of your question. So just about the canopy data. So we use the canopy data that the city of Boston used for their urban forest plan. And don't quote me on the date, but it's a few years old. Our plan is to update this every 2 years, and we understand that changes happen in the urban forest, and it's very hard to account for it in real time because we're doing this in cities everywhere. And it's not, it's not necessarily perfect, but what I can say is that we do have intentions to update this on a 2-year cycle when we get that land cover data. But we captured this at one point in time with LiDAR data. And so that's the best that we can do to try to collect all this really intensive data.
Can I just ask, would I be able to get a follow-up just to see when the data was captured? Because that would be very helpful.
Yes, I
Great.
can
Because
confirm
this
that with you.
information, the city's known for, it's been approved since 2000, it started in 2020.
Yep.
And then the approval was given January 21, so almost 2 years ago.
Right. The problem with that is just that it's LiDAR data. So if the trees are still existing today, it's going to capture that. So it's satellite view gathering the trees. You're saying they're still in the ground, but they're approved to be removed, right?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, we don't have a way of capturing that because what we're doing is looking at what's in the ground today, if that makes sense.
It does, but if the city's spearheading it, they know because they approved it, so it feels a little bit, especially if there's money right now to be given to neighborhoods that are, in need of it in terms of tree coverage. So it feels like we're missing out on something. Yeah.
Yeah, just do me a favor. Actually, I know we're at time. Can you put your email address and I'll follow up with you separately?
You got it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I think Bill is next.
Yeah, Bill is next. Okay, DeVito's gonna ask to defer to you for overtime.
Yeah, I'll take care of the.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to call out, it is noon, I know people might need to leave, we'll just continue with questions as long as, Molly and Alex and folks can stay on, but if you have to leave, we understand and follow up with, happy to answer any questions that weren't, if you have to leave early, just follow up via email. Good, Bill.
Yep, thanks. Very quickly, I was aware of this tool and I was in the process of completing a grant request in the middle of December, looked online and I found it online. And I got to tell you that it was so robust and powerful. The grant was looking to plant trees in low income minority areas. I was able to narrow it right down to a block in East Boston and just provided so much rich data. We're also focused on heat islands and it captured that information as well. The scores were in the mid 30s. So it just, for me, it really helped. I just wanted to make a plug for the tool. It's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Ilani, do you have a question too?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Not so much a question, but more of like an observation. I think that I'm really excited about this tool, and I love that you guys prepared a report on Crane Ledge Woods, which is very important and especially needed now that the city is currently taking comments and opposition or which is the vast majority. At the last meeting I went to, 100% of the attendees opposed the destruction of Crane Ledge Woods. But I also, I think that this information is extremely empowering for those of us who are fighting for, tree and environmental justice. But on the same token, and I think that, on the other side of that coin is that the developers have deep pockets. They have a lot of money and they have a lot of access. And part of that is that, what we see as a tool to help, preserve the existing tree canopy, they are looking for any way to use that information to serve their purposes. And I'll give you an example of what I saw at the last hearing that I attended, or city meeting, is that the developers, consultant said something along the lines of, Crane Ledge Woods happens to be in Hyde Park. And so, his statement was Hyde Park has one of the highest tree canopies in comparison to all other neighborhoods in the city. And he, you know, he was using that information to say that, you know, these trees in Crane Ledge Woods are insignificant or not necessarily as important as we think they are. So yes, they will find ways, you know, to use any information that becomes available to them to push their own personal agendas, which at the end of the day, we know is, you know, cut down trees, make money, line their pockets, and then move, you know, leave and go back to their tree line neighborhoods, you know, and, you know, never even give this a second thought. You know, the generational and global impacts that their actions are having on those of us who live in Boston, are raising children in Boston, and, you know, the overall like global impact this has. So I think Tessa is definitely, which by the way, does anybody else think they're hearing Tesla every time we talk about Tesla? I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, that was, yeah. But, you know, Tessa, I think is a great tool, but don't be, you know, it would be naive for us to believe that developers aren't going to, you know, fight or, you know, fight dirty. And yes, the city of Boston does stand to benefit greatly, not just financially, but politically too. So they are, you know, yeah, just keep that in mind for perspective as we move forward, you know, fighting the good fight and speaking for the trees. Thank you for helping us, giving us a greater platform and the tools to speak, you know, in a more informed and empowered way. So that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sarah, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. I went ahead and wrote in the chat what I was thinking, which is it would be informative if we had a way of tracking what Joanna mentioned about tree removals that have been approved, for example, by the BPDEA. When they okay a project, they should know the tree impacts. And if someone in the city, like the Green New Deal, kept a running list, this map would look quite different if projecting forward.
I'll just make a quick comment, Sarah. I really like that idea. I think unless we have I think it goes back to the issue that Johanna was talking about with, you know, having up-to-date canopy layers. It is really hard to constantly be updating this, and we want to make this as useful as possible. But I wonder if there's some way in which we could take projects of a certain scale and agree to kind of put them on the tool on an annual basis or something along those lines. We'd have to be a little bit creative, but definitely open to those types of ideas. And then also, you know, I'm assuming that list is public information. So once things are approved, we could get a copy of that list and be able to put what pieces are under threat of removal.
Yeah, I don't think. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, like, American Forests and this Tessa tool, it's a national tool, right? And they're working nationally in lots of different markets. And I think what you're asking, Sarah, is a very and those data sources are sort of the same across the country. Things like tree removals in a specific municipality, it's going to differ greatly from municipality to municipality. So that's a tool that maybe, and I defer to Molly here on this, Molly and Alexis, but I would say, like, there might be a way for us as a team at Buff to think about what a tool like that could look like, and not ask American Forests to do that. This is just going to get complicated knowing the back end of this tool.
Thank you, David, for pointing that out. I do want to mention that Tessa is customized for Boston, so we can get into the hyperlocal data. It's just a matter of the frequency of updating it. The national tool that I think Alexis talked about earlier is something that we're using data that's available nationwide, so we don't really have an opportunity to get to that hyperlocal data. But I think this is a great conversation, and I would love to see incorporating this, because we want this to be, we don't want too many tools floating all around. We want to have a central place, because it gets really confusing and overwhelming. So if we can find a way to increase the value of this tool, we will consider it. That's the best that I can say. I don't work for the GIS and data science team, so I don't understand the back end complexities as much, but I do work closely with them, and I've made a note, and I think this is a really powerful and important suggestion. So thank you.
So I see Anita has her hand up, and actually, I don't know. So 1 minute, Anita, because I forgot to mention here, and maybe it was mentioned before, and I don't know if Alana's still on the call, but there was we were talking, or she is, that was it mentioned at all about a tree ordinance committee being set up through Buff? Okay, good. Sorry.
Yes,
Okay.
I did, yes.
Thank you, Alana. So if you're
You're
interested in that, I don't know if who you put as a contact person.
I just put down my email, Debbie, but I
Okay.
mean, they can reach out to you or whoever on the team as well.
Yeah.
And then we can coordinate.
Yeah, there are lots of people, and I think this conversation is showing there's lots of interest in tree preservation and thinking about an ordinance, and the city council has introduced an ordinance and brought it to committee. So we want to be ready for what we think an ordinance should look like. And Alana and I earlier this week had discussed forming a formal committee. And I know Jarrell has reached out to a couple of you on thinking what that might look like, and to take the lead on that instead of letting the politicians take the lead on that. All right, Anita.
Just quickly, I think that I'd ask the question, can this tool be used to say if X number of trees are removed of this and that and the other size, then what would be the costs to the tree equity score? That seems like it, and you said, yes, that can be done indirectly. If that could be done directly, then any advocate could show the different scenarios in projects that they're aware of, and we wouldn't have to have the constantly updated data. So that would be a really good feature. Thanks for letting me say that.
All right, well, lots of good ideas here. And I know Jarrell asked that I share a survey, as we often do at the end of meetings. So if you have a chance to fill out, if you haven't already, a survey about Buff. We are at 12:12. So happy to leave the room open for additional questions, but otherwise see you all in February.
Good. David, could I just say, I don't think I said
Yeah,
it before,
please.
just thank you all very much. I know not many people here were involved in this process and the development, so I just wanted, like I say, thank you. Your input continues to inform this, and even just in this discussion, we're seeing how questions keep coming up. So just a general thank you.
Thank you.